And welcome to another edition of Success Talk. I'm Deborah Shariff, and today I am so excited to introduce the Black men, 100 Black men of Las Vegas. And I want to share that with our streamers because I think it's important that all the organizations that assist, particularly young people, I think is really something that's needed today. Let me just give you a little sense of what the 100 Black Men, actually, it's a national organization. And my guest today is Martin Walker, and I'm going to give you a little bit more about him. But let me just tell you about how the 100 Black Men, the chapter started. The 100 Black Men of America was formed in 1963 by a group of prominent leaders, including Major League Baseball Hall of Fame legend Jackie Robinson, to improve the quality of life and enhance the educational opportunities of African Americans in a unified, collaborative, pragmatic effort. There are over 103 chapters with over 10,000 combined members in several countries. So I'm going to show you this short clip and then I'm going to bring on my guests.
What you out here doing, man?
We out here serving the kids, man. Serving the kids.
Man, right now, we partnering with Nevada Partners. We giving back to the community, to the 100 Black Men. We got the back to school drive, folders, pencils, papers. A lot of times it gets rough for a lot of people and they can't, be able to provide us this. It's a cool thing, function that we have going on. So we get back here at North Las Vegas, 690 West Lake right now. Yeah.
What's up?
What you doing?
Out here, one just being an example, right? They say kings don't get back to our community. So one, we debunking that myth, and changing the narrative. But we're giving back school supplies for children. A lot of kids are, in need, and just being of value to the community. That's it, bro.
And let's bring him on. Wow. Welcome, Martin Walker.
Good morning. Thank you.
Let me just give you a little bit of background about Martin. Martin was raised in Oakland, California, has been in Las Vegas for the last 4 years. He's vice chairman of the Community Advocacy Committee, 100 Black Men of Las Vegas. We saw him in the clip, as a matter of fact. Currently serving as a senior master sergeant in the U.S. Air Force as a military personnel superintendent. You don't mess with Martin. He's had 36 years, and he's been in both wars, the Gulf and the Iraqi freedom, a freedom veteran. Serving as a diversity, equity, and inclusion program manager for the 926, and I want to hear a little bit more about that, Air Wing at Nellis Air Force Base. He has a bachelor's degree in organizational leadership from Ashford University, currently working on diversity, equity, and inclusion certification through the University of South Florida. Welcome, Martin Walker.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. And I'm so glad we met. I actually met Martin some time ago at a screening of Kemetic Yoga. And we were just talking, me and my daughter were just chatting, we were talking politics. And Martin had an ear and he, sort of listened in and leaned in, when a brother wants to hear what the sisters are talking about. So that's how we started to develop this professional relationship. And so far, I'm just so excited to have you on Success Talk and talk to us a little bit. How did you get involved with the 100 Black Men of Las Vegas?
Well, first, thank you for having me. And yes, I definitely was loving the intelligent conversation that you and your daughter were having. I couldn't help but chime in. So I'm guilty as charged. 100 Black Men, I was introduced to them actually in Sacramento by another person, another member who just thought I'd be a good fit for the organization because of the things that I'm into giving back to the community, being a good role model for young people, especially our Black boys, but girls um, as well, and just the desire to get involved and be mentors and role models and dispel some of the myths that unfortunately plague our community.
Absolutely. And, while I was looking at, I was actually checking out the website and I noticed that the programs that you have are absolutely undeniably wonderful, particularly for young people, because when I think about the fact that our youth, they're going to lead and we have to make sure that they're empowered. So the most important thing is making sure that, that their educational experience is positive, that they understand economics and financial literacy. Talk to me a little bit about the economic program, because when I showed it to my two grandsons, 114 and 115, they were saying, "Oh, Grandma, I want to see this program." So talk to us a little bit about that program and other programs that your organization provides.
So thank you. So the financial literacy program, again, as you mentioned, is aimed at youth, teach them how to manage their money, balance the checkbook, uh, understanding taxes, and at least lightweight investment, uh, living trust, things to eventually make your money work for them. Because our people systemically are not taught how to manage money, and unfortunately, too many of our young people are more focused on uh, acquiring material things and bling and things that we depreciate over time. And so we talk more to our young people about how to invest their money more wisely, savings, um, different retirement plan, different things that's going to help sustain them in the long run. But for the most part, budgeting is the crux of that curriculum. And we also have the Crossroads, which is more geared for ages 12 and above, at just mentoring through just regular life skills, coping skills, uh, lightweight cognitive behavioral skills, things that will help them just get along as a productive member of society in this day. But we also have a chess organization that it's obviously some people think of chess as just a game, but when you think about the cognitive skills and the logic and the strategic thinking that goes into um, learning how to play chess and strategize, and you can adapt that to life skill lessons. That is that opportunity we have to also talk to young people as we build that rapport and possibly talk to them about other things that might be in their life that is a mentoring opportunity.
Wow, that's impressive. And in the clip, I noticed that, and I didn't know this happened a few weeks ago. I would have had my grandkids over there, but you all did a wonderful job with the students, the young people going back to school. Can you talk a little bit about that? And I wish I had you on a couple of weeks ago because I would have promoted it, and so that we would have had, of course, you already had it, was well attended, but talk to us a little bit about giving back and supporting young people going back to school.
So there's two things that we're championing here. One, going back to school, you just mentioned, but also literacy in the Black community. So we tie those two things together. So going back to school, again, we have our students, at least in this community, CCSD, are lowest in almost every academic achievement category. And we also have the highest rate of expulsions. We also have the highest rate of suspensions and disciplinary action. And we have one of the highest rates of dropouts. So it's important for us to send that message to young people, one, to stay in school, that in school is still important, and not necessarily college, because not everyone is, geared for college. There's trade schools and other options, but first get that first accomplishment of that high school diploma. So we think it's important that we promote education. Also, we promote literacy. We think it's important that young people see Black people, specifically Black men, reading. One of the leading causes to crime rate and our low economic status systemically is literacy. Even those of our men or people who are in prison, when they have the prison education, one of the biggest part of the curriculum is literacy. So we promote reading. So we also had a program we just wrapped up with the library system, where we did a book. We were reading the book "The Hate You Give," and we wanted young people to see Black men reading and embracing or finding reading important, because that could help dispel a lot of our other community ailments.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there was something that when you talk about, our people, young people, particularly Black children who are having disciplinary issues, et cetera. I've been an educator for 30 plus years. I know I brag about it a lot, but I think I've learned a little bit during those 30 years. And one thing that really sticks out in terms of young people being in school, because, Martin, back in the day when I was in school, I was like disinterested in the curriculum, and it made me really bored. So when I see curriculums that haven't really changed that much in terms of history about who we are, that's a sad day. I mean, we had they implemented the critical theory. I think I had a meeting that you and Mel had invited me to, and they talked a little bit about the critical theory of, I forget what the title is, but it was just sort of introducing Black history, or introducing what Black people, their contributions were, and what we need to do about this race issue. And all across the country, we have these groups, these conservative groups, getting rid of. We don't want race theory in our. I mean, I'm in awe about it. I am a little later on going to introduce a curriculum that I created, because I think it's devastating that even today in 2022, going into 2023 and beyond, that we are still fighting the school systems for curriculum to keep our young people interested. What are your thoughts?
So first, I would say, you said, you brag about it a lot. Actually, I have the utmost respect for educators. I've been behind the scenes as I was raising my kids and seen a lot of what educators do. They are really the unsung heroes. I know I'm a military person, but I would equate educators on the same level of service to our country as my brother in the military. In reference to your question, I have a couple of thoughts. First, in just at least for the state of Nevada, there was a law passed in 2015 that required curriculum be established, a multicultural curriculum to be established. Here we are 7 years later, that still has not been implemented. In 2017, there was a subsequent law that put a little bit more emphasis on certain parts of the curriculum as far as sociology and mathematics, but that still hasn't been done. Critical race theory is meant to talk, basically is exactly what you just mentioned, is the contributions or the different perspectives of other cultures on the same historical things that happened. What it's been twisted to be, which is driven that opposition that you spoke of, is it's more of a pointing the finger at a certain demographic and demonizing that demographic, and that is a misnomer. That is not what the intent of CRT is, but that's the narrative that's being driven in certain media outlets, and therefore driving the iron. But again, in this day and age, we try to encourage people to attend the school board meetings and city council meetings and everything, because, as I mentioned, those laws or things that have not been implemented, excuse me, partly because there's no accountability. There's no accountability because we as a community don't exercise our political clout and participate in the CCSD meeting, board meetings and other things. Therefore, it's easy for our needs and our desires to be put aside. And again, as you mentioned, when our young people are in the classroom and they become disinterested because it's that the culture, the methodology of teaching is not conducive to our learning styles, or the people that are being placed in front of them to either teach them or teach them about don't look like us. There's nothing that resonates with our children. And so they become disinterested. And it leads back to the earlier question of why they drop out, why they get lower rates, if they have low academic achievement, they can't read, and then they end up in the criminal system. So all those things stem into our community. And that's again what our organization tries to mitigate, is to try to help the community, help our people not end up in those bad consequences.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned that there were a couple of laws or bills that were passed. What can happen to make that, to push them forward so that they actually execute what was already passed in terms of, you just mentioned two curricula that should have been passed.
So I would say several things, and I will preface and say this is my opinion. Um, One, the Nevada Education Board for the state, they're responsible for enforcing the mandates that happen. And I personally wrote a letter on their website. There's a way that people can request information. I requested what the status was. This was probably in April. What's the status of the implementation of this multicultural curriculum? Specifically, one of the mandates was that a rubric be created by which to measure the effectiveness or the tenets of that curriculum. Again, this was in April of this year, still 5 years after it was passed, and they said they hope to just have a rubric out by August, basically this month, 7 years after the law passed. They still haven't even established a rubric. So first of all, I would say we need to collectively raise our voice to those entities that are responsible for enforcing. That's on the state level. On the local level, again, we need to not just attend the school board meetings, but pay attention to who we vote for, who sits on the school board meetings, school board and trustees, because they're going to serve their interest, and they're going to. There's unfortunately there's some political influence, even though there's supposed to be a nonpartisan position, but the face of the superintendent matters. And that's not the same thing negative or positive one way or the other in reflection to the current superintendent. But as a community, if we're not getting our needs met, the only way that's going to change is if we get involved.
Right. When you mentioned, well, parents have a lot of power. So I'm sure that, parents, how do we organize and really get parents involved in this challenge? I hate to say struggle, because I will be struggling till the day we draw our last breath. So I like to say challenge. So what are some of the challenges to really get, parents involved?
Well, that is a $64 million question. And that's a question that has plagued our community for ages and ages. And so there's no one real formula or elixir for that, I guess, or I should say it would have to be an elixir, because there are parents who unfortunately are disinterested for whatever reason. It's just to be honest. But then there are parents who would like to be more active, but because of their socioeconomic status, they're working so many jobs that they're just not available to go up to the school, to go to the school board meetings or the other committees or whatever. But those parents could become members of other organizations such as ours, such as NAN, Racism in School 1865, that have advocates who try to work these issues on our behalf. So that's one piece, because then that raises the political clout. That membership raises the political clout of those organizations to put more weight behind those organizations. parents going to school board meetings when possible. If they can't physically go, the school board meetings are streamed live on television, and they can always go back and look at them later on the internet and call in and write. So there are ways for parents to get involved, but we first must unite behind causes and decide what it is that we want to get behind, and then speak with as much of a united voice as possible.
Wow. Um, Let me just take a pause for a minute for you to share with the audience, even though some of the folks that are watching, they're from all over the world, but more specifically for some of the folks who do live in the Nevada area, how does one get in touch with you, and how does one have their child be a part of your support program at the 100 Black Men of Vegas?
So personally, my personal email address with the 100 is my first name dot last name, so Martin.Walker at 100bmlv.org. We do have a website, which is 100blackmenlasvegas.org, that people can go to and see descriptions of the different programs that we offer. If one of the tabs on that menu says programs, and you click on that, and there's a drop down that says youth programs. And in each one of our programs, if you click on the program, there's registration information. That's for parents who want to get their children involved with our programs.
Awesome. I'm just going to take a short pause for a minute for us to introduce a reading and writing program. So hold tight, Martin, for the remaining minutes of our show. And if your child is struggling with reading and writing, I have the solution for you. The GYRS, which is the Grandpups Young Reader Series, is a reading and writing curriculum with over 50 lesson plans and an accompanying storybook. The story is about the untold history of enslaved Africans and the friendly relationships between the two ethnic groups who later formed a close bond and created underground homes. This introductory cost is only $19.95. So again, it's the Grandpups Young Reader Series. And if you have an interest, it's grandpupstories@gmail.com. Again, that's grandpupstories@gmail.com. And you can just email me at successtalkwithdebsharif@gmail.com. So I want to bring back Martin. And we have, let me see, at the total, we have about 3 minutes. So we still have a little bit of time. Sometimes when I think about the fact that we hold all of the power in our hands, and we can't allow any school district or any curriculum to keep us from educating our young people. That's why I took it upon myself to create that curriculum that you just saw. Because I think it's vitally important. And I think we did talk about the fact that I was from Boston, and I actually started to, when I was first starting my teaching year, becoming a teacher, I signed up for what they call BEAM, which was a Black Association for Teachers. The first day that I was there, I thought that the number one, the most important thing, major issue that should happen is making sure that we have a comprehensive curriculum that is created now. And when you think about Black history, it's not just for Black children, but it's for all American children. Yes. They should know about our contributions. And that's why there's so much disrespect, because they don't know who we are. So I'm saying all this to say that there should be some other alternative ways in which we need to make sure that we educate our young people. I think your organization is one, but do you have any think out the box, Martin, creative approaches to make sure that young people get empowered with their own history?
So again, I guess as my opinion, and not being an educator, but we have to spend more, not just rely on the school system to educate our children about our history. Two, unfortunately, a lot of our people are not as well versed in our true history especially prior to slavery. So so our children need to have more conversations about, again, our history, whether it be prior to or post slavery, about the contributions that we have made in different industries outside of the normal Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Harriet Tubman. There are so many people who have done so many things, in whether it's inventions, whether it's academic achievement, things that might inspire our young people to say, if they can do it, I can do it too. And until our children are more exposed to that, and again, we're not reliant on teachers from other demographics to expose our children, especially since there are very few teachers in our demographic. We have to take it upon our community and police ourselves and help drive that forward. It's going to start there.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, we're out of time. And I just think that this conversation should be continued, and I'd love to invite more members of your group on the show so that we can, so that we can discuss some other issues that I think I brought up to you and the 100 Black Men of Vegas, that are critical in terms of young people and youth. But we just kind of, touched upon some things. But, thank you so much for giving us insight into your organization. And just one more time, if you can give your email address and how people can get a hold of the website. And just to let you know, the 100 Black Men of Vegas, it is an American 100 Black Men. It's all over the country. I think you mentioned even some foreign countries that this particular organization is.
We do have chapters, I think, in 3 other countries. Honestly, I don't remember the names of them, but collectively we have 105 chapters around the globe. And to that, my email address, my specific email address is martin.walker@100, that's the number 100, bmlv.org. And our website is 100 Black Men Las Vegas, all one word, .org.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks again, Martin, and hold tight. I'm just going to end the stream. I just have a couple of things I want to share with you, but thank you so much, streamers, for checking us out. My guest was Martin Walker, who's a part of the 100 Black Men of Vegas. We're so glad that you streamed in. And our next guest later on today, 3 o'clock Pacific time, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, I have Tracy Waters, who is a Black author, and she wants to share her book about how she lost her mom. So again, thanks so much, streamers, for tuning in. Until next time.